Tonight, gun advocates say that I just don't get it when it comes to guns, and one of the main reasons is I've never fired them, or hardly at all. So I've come to gun country, to Houston in Texas, to one of the most successful and popular gun stores in the state, and I'm going to find out why so many Americans demand the right to be able to use one of these. I'll fire the most powerful weapons in America's arsenal, and they're all legal. I'll talk to the Texas Attorney General and to the owner of this store, which has become a mecca to many Texans for guns and ammunition. And my one-on-one with the Motor City madman himself, Ted Nugent. It got pretty lively last time, and I'm sure it will again tonight.
Piers, you're in America now, and in America we have a Second Amendment right.
From Texas, this is a special edition of Piers Morgan Tonight. I'm here at Tactical Firearms in Houston, in Texas. I'm with the owner, Jeremy Alcide. Jeremy, how has business been in this gun store since the Sandy Hook massacre?
We've increased our sales 4 to 5 times. We were doing about $1 million a month, and we started doing $1 million a week until we sold out. Right now, it's impossible to get guns and ammunition.
This pattern has been seen all over America. Why? Why are people reacting to such an appalling massacre by racing out to buy more guns and ammunition?
Well, I can't speak for any other state but Texas. I know that my customers feel that they're going to be banned, and so they feel that they need to go get it now while they still can.
What are the most popular selling of the guns?
Anything right now with over a 10-round capacity semi-automatic, because that's what the rumor is that they're going to try to ban.
Do you think those are the kind of things you should use in self-defense?
For self-defense for your home or self-defense of your property?
Your home.
For your home, I like shotguns just because you don't have to worry about missing and the pistol or rifle round going through sheetrock and killing an innocent loved one in your own house or even a neighbor outside. Here in Texas, you know, sometimes you live on 10, 20 acres. You've got coyotes, pigs, and so a shotgun wouldn't be very effective.
Do you believe any gun should be banned?
I do not.
Why?
It's not guns that kill people. This is the case, and we need to ban alcohol because alcohol kills more people than guns 20 times over, 50, I don't know the statistics.
But do you believe that the more guns there are in America, the safer the country is?
In the hands of right people, yes. Yes. You know, if you're going to do anything, I agree that, you know, people that have mental retardation or violent, you know, felons, those people should not have guns. They shouldn't have the right to vote. They shouldn't have any rights, in my opinion. But law-abiding citizens, you should be able to do whatever you want as far as gun purchasing. Okay, well, look, let's fire some of these weapons. What are we going to start with? Start with the JP Enterprises semi-automatic AR-15. Every time you pull the trigger, one bullet comes out. And this is a pure, unmodified semi-automatic? It is. So no one's done anything to this, haven't tried to flip it into an automatic. No. It's a bog standard, if you like, AR-15. Right. Which is, to remind the viewers, this is the weapon that's been used in the last 5 mass shootings in America, including Aurora and Sandy Hook. Okay. What is the magazine is how big? How many bullets? This is a 30-round capacity. 30. It's pretty standard. And that's perfectly legal? Yes, it is. Okay. Yes. So all this is perfectly legal to any American who's not a felon or has a history of mental illness? Correct. Okay. So, weapon's ready to be charged. Mm-hmm. Weapon is on safe. Okay. Go ahead and shoulder the weapon. Keep your finger out of the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Finger out of the trigger. Mm-hmm. Okay, when you get your sights lined up, take it off of safety. Mm-hmm. And then go ahead and shoot. Wow. That's cyclical rate. Jeremy, come in about so 300 rounds a minute. Once I got the hang of it and began pressing the trigger faster and faster, it was just firing very, very fast. This has a muzzle brake, which stops the rise of the gun, makes it a little bit easier to shoot, makes it a lot louder. But somebody who knows really what they're doing, how many rounds could they fire in, say, a minute with one of these? Well, it only, with reload, maybe 60 rounds or so. 60 rounds a minute. Right. I mean, the cyclical rate's 330 or so rounds a minute, 400 rounds a minute.
Sorry?
The true cyclical rate, if you had unlimited magazine, then it could shoot about 400 rounds a minute.
So somebody like you, if you had...
multiple magazines.
Yes. How many do you think?
In 1 minute? 200 or so.
200?
If I had to guess.
You could buy these in Walmart. I mean, do you think that's a good idea?
For law-abiding citizens, I think it's an excellent idea. You know, if you live here in Texas, like I said, we shoot pigs out of helicopters. We do things that nobody else does. If you start banning one particular anything, I don't care if it's a particular type of ammunition, firearm, magazine, where is it going to stop? You give anybody an inch, they're going to take a mile. And so if you're a law-abiding citizen, there should be no more bans on anything.
Now, you have a modified version of the AR-15, which I wouldn't mind seeing next if I could.
Okay. So we're a firearms manufacturer. These two weapons...
I mean, they look identical to me.
Right. The difference is the selector switch, instead of just going from safe to full auto or safe to semi-automatic, we have an auto sear that allows it to go full automatic.
And that's the only difference?
That's the only difference.
How sophisticated is that? I mean, how difficult is it for somebody who knows what they're doing to take an AR-15 and make it like an automatic?
Well, you have to Dremel out the inside of the receiver. First, you have to have the right receiver. You got to have a full auto bolt. So there's parts and components. You can't just go to Walmart. You can't just go in your backyard and just make it that way. You have to order parts.
But the parts can be bought legally?
Yes, they can.
So you can buy the legal parts and you could convert it yourself, if you know what you're doing?
Well, when you say legally, technically you're not supposed to have the parts and the gun together.
But you can buy them separately?
You can.
So if you're a criminal, you know what you're doing.
Of course, with the criminal, you can do whatever you want.
Okay, let me fire this one.
Okay.
Let's put it onto automatic mode.
Okay. The same thing.
Again, a 30-bullet magazine.
30-round magazine. Safety is on. You need to flip this twice and make sure that you lean forward into it because it does rise. There you go. Just make sure you lean into it.
I mean, to me, they just feel unbelievably powerful.
Right. You can see that you were nowhere near as accurate. You missed the target so many times.
No, but it was. I could feel it just rising all the time. Right. So my accuracy was far less than with the previous weapon. But the speed of the bullets, the power, all
about
of it.
Twice as fast. And that's why they call this, when you shoot one of these, it's called spray and pray. You spray bullets everywhere and pray that it hits the target. They're not very accurate at all.
But if you're in a confined area like a movie theater, you don't really care, right?
Well, no, you saw the rise. I mean, you shot over everybody's head.
If that room was just full of people, it doesn't matter if you miss a few, you're going to hit somebody, right? When the guy at Aurora used a AR-15, and I think he had what's called a slider device.
Slide fire stock.
What does that do to an AR-15?
It allows the weapon, it's even less accurate than this, and it's really hard to actually shoot. I would love to put one in your hands and try for you to try.
How many bullets does it allow you to fire?
Well, it technically shoots about 650 rounds a minute, same thing as a full auto.
And you can buy the slider legally. I mean, you sell them here.
Right.
Of all the arguments to have one of these, home defense is probably the least plausible from your point of view.
For me, in the home, what people are talking about is, you know, the way that this world is going, that the military and United Nations are going to come in and try to take our guns.
Did you really believe that?
I don't know. Anything's possible. There's a lot of things in my life.
Can you imagine U.S. Marines charging onto your property and trying to steal your guns?
I would hope not. But if it's an executive order...
Jeremy, you're a sensible guy. I've spent some time with you. I hear this all the time in Texas. I mean, I gave an interview to a friend of yours earlier with 40, 50 Texans there, and that was the one thing they all seemed agreed on, that tyranny was about to come their way. But I don't see how that's going to happen.
You look at all the other countries, and it started where we are right now, and it's ended up with no guns.
But you think that the American military would attack its own people?
If they're forced to. I don't know. I hope not. I hope that would not happen, but I would think at least 40 or 50% would. And
do you think that's what many Texans feel about why they would need a weapon like this?
They want it because they are law-abiding citizens, and they know it's legal to purchase it now, and it won't be legal later. So they'd rather buy it now and be legal than do something illegal, because these are law-abiding citizens we're talking about.
Show me quickly the kind of weapon that you think would be effective for home defense.
Inside your home, this is a typical shotgun. The reason I like about this is because it does have a strap here.
Yeah.
So if someone tries to take it from you, you have 2 points for struggle. It's a pump action, so it's not going to jam. That's a universal sound for get the heck out my house. So this is a really good, it's a 12 gauge. It's a really good weapon for home defense. It is. You know, you have to hold it down at the waist when you fire it, because if you do this, you'll bust your teeth out.
Finally, this machine down here, which is, it looks to me like a kind of, you know, military machine gun that you see in all the movies. But that, I understand, because it was made before 1986 and the last assault weapons ban, that is a legal weapon in this country. I could buy that. I need 6 months of background checks and...
It's a ATF paperwork that you have to fill out. You have to pay $200 to the ATF to actually fire this, or to actually purchase it. To fire it costs...
What did it cost me?
These run anywhere from $25,000 to $45,000. You know, it depends on the make and model.
And what is the rate of fire of one of these?
It's about 900 rounds a minute. Chris, if I could have you over on this side, to sit on this one, and you sit on that one.
Okay.
Okay.
Go
ahead and back up just a little bit. Put your knees over this. Yep. Right.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. Keep your fingers off the trigger.
Okay.
Go ahead and take it off of safe.
I'm going to take it off safe.
Okay.
Can you push this down, push it down hard.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it one bullet of fire or?
No,
Nope.
It's going to keep going as long as you keep it down.
Why would any civilian need one of these?
This is an investment. I purchased one of these a while back for about $1,200 and sold it for $12,000 and sold it for $45,000.
Incredible. Incredible.
It's obviously too expensive to shoot. It's just the investment point.
Amazing.
There's not many of them out there.
I could buy that from you.
You could.
Jeremy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Still ahead, I talked to a close friend of America's top sniper who was shot dead on a Texas gun range very similar to this over the weekend. And after the break, I talked to the Attorney General of Texas about his views on gun control. Texas Attorney General Greg Abbott has had a lot to say about guns in America, and he joins me now. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you.
The president today was in Minnesota and came out strongly again for a variety of different measures he wants to bring in through the Senate, through the House, to try and, as he puts it, curb gun violence in America. What was your reaction to what he said?
Well, it seems to be more show than reality, because it seems like on the very same day, the majority leader came out and said that they're not going to pass any assault weapons ban. And so it seems like he's working...
He didn't say they wouldn't pass. He said he'd take a look at it.
Well, I thought he made an announcement later today that he didn't think that the United States Senate on the Democrat side would pass an assault weapon ban. So it seems like the president is swimming against the tide of even his own party.
Let's go through some of these measures, because I want to see where there's common ground, and then we can argue about where there isn't. Do you support 100% background checks, universal background checks?
No, the problem that we have with regard to the background checks is the current background checks are not working. We're seeing so many violations of it that the federal officials are not enforcing.
But in principle, the principle of universal background checks, do you support that?
Well, the principle of ensuring that criminals and those who have mental issues do not get their hands on guns are very important. The problem
what about the principle of knowing who is buying guns in America? Because a lot of these people don't show the obvious mental dangers, if you like, until it's too late. What about just this principle of, if you buy a gun, even at a gun show, there's a record of it, and you have to have a background check.
And what I'm trying to tell you is that right now, if you go to a gun show, you will have a background check run. The important thing, though,
Actually,
Piers...
That's not true, though.
Here's the important
thing. You
thing.
will in some cases, but the private trades that go on these gun shows, there's no records.
Which is a good point. I was hunting last month with a good friend in South Texas. I used a rifle that I would have liked to have purchased from him. Had he had to go through a background check on me, would have slowed down the purchase and would have hindered people like myself who may want to buy a gun from a friend. I wanted to sell one of my pistols to a friend of mine. Should I have to run a background check on my friend I've known for more than a decade just because I want to sell him a pistol?
But you can guarantee that every single person at a gun show in Texas is going to be in the future of sound mental health and isn't going to suddenly develop either criminal tendencies, suicidal tendencies, or murderous tendencies. Can you guarantee that?
What we need to do is to enforce the laws and take measures to crack down on violence, to help those with mental challenges, to put the criminals behind bars and prevent criminals from getting a hold of guns in the first place.
Would you support a ban on magazines that have more than 10 rounds?
Absolutely not.
Why?
We don't, because look at the Texas border itself. We have more than 1,000 miles of border. We have thousands of ranchers who live up and down that border, and frequently we have drug cartels coming across the border. Also,
how many drug cartel barons and their operatives have attacked people in Texas?
We have drug cartel members who have shot at law enforcement, who have hit law enforcement with bullets.
Texan civilians, I'm talking about.
My point is, if they are so brazen that they are going to shoot law enforcement officers, the innocent ranchers have to be fearful, and these ranchers may be hundreds of miles away from any law enforcement.
Has any Texan rancher, to your knowledge, ever been confronted with a Mexican drug cartel?
Absolutely. There are plenty of stories. Every month you'll have...
There are shootouts all over Texas involving Mexican drug cartels?
Well, you said,
and Texan farmers?
Yeah, you said confronted. The cartels and the drug dealers are crossing the border, confronting ranchers on an ongoing basis in the state of Texas. They deserve, under the Second Amendment, to have the ability to meet force with force, which is what the Second Amendment guarantees. And so these ranchers need to be able to protect themselves. Let me add one more thing. You're in Houston right now. There are members of the vicious gang MS-13 right here in Houston, as well as other deadly gangs. People here in Houston have a right to defend themselves from the deadly MS-13 gang.
Do you agree with the fact that you can't legally buy in most places in America machine guns, warfare-style machine guns?
That's been banned.
Do you support that?
Well, that's a ban that's in place. And
would you support it?
We have been fine with that ban.
Why?
However,
why are you fine with it? Why doesn't that breach your constitutional rights?
Well,
because the military can have them. And I thought that your interpretation, unless I'm wrong, is you should have whatever everybody else has.
Well, the interpretation of the Second Amendment, the reason why it was passed in the first place is to allow Americans to defend themselves from either government forces or other forces that endanger their lives.
But if the government attacked you, it would be with the United States military, who would all be armed with machine guns. They are banned from civilian use, yet you support that ban, but you're not prepared to even think about a ban on military-style rifles still in circulation and still legal.
Well, it depends on what you mean by military style. A lot of people use this phrase military style, when in reality it's nothing more than a semi-automatic weapon that is used even for deer hunting. Some people categorize that as military style.
In this very gun store, I can buy an AR-15. I can buy a slide device over there, which will allow me, in semi-automatic mode, to fire up to 300 rounds a minute. What is your definition of an assault rifle, given I can legally buy that here and kill 300 people in 1 minute?
Well, first, I think that any Texan has a right to be able to purchase one of those weapons. When it comes to talking about limiting our rights, we need to have the right to defend ourselves whenever anyone tries to attack us.
Attorney General, thank you very much.
Thank you, Piers.
Coming next, I'll talk to two people who believe that concealed weapons and the NRA save lives, plus the Motor City madman himself, Ted Nugent. Back to our live special here in Texas. I want to turn briefly to the shocking story of the Navy SEAL sniper who had 160 combat kills in Iraq, but was shot dead this weekend by a former Marine on a gun range right here in Texas, very similar to the one that I'm sitting in now. When Chris Carr left the military, he began working to support fellow vets suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome. He told a story in the book American Sniper, the autobiography of the most lethal sniper in U.S. history. And joining me now is one of his co-authors, a man who knew him well, Jim DeFelice. Mr. DeFelice, thank you for joining me. An obviously appalling tragedy, this, not least because your friend was basically trying to help another armed serviceman who'd come out who was suffering from this very frequent problem now that so many ex-soldiers have, post-traumatic stress disorder, and it ended tragically. What did you feel when you heard about this in terms of what Chris was trying to achieve?
I didn't, I guess I'm still in total disbelief that Chris is gone, and I think that everyone that knew him feels the same way. Chris, I personally don't know the exact details of what happened, and I'm sure that more information will come out. But Chris, even before the book, even before he was famous, devoted a considerable amount of time to helping veterans, whether they were disabled, whether they were suffering from traumatic stress, or just regular guys. And he would take people out go hunting, go fishing, and he would also just talk with people who'd been back from the war. Really, he devoted, that was really what his life, or a big part of what his life was about.
And particularly awful in the sense that I'm at a big Texas gun range now. It feels very safe here. Safety is clearly paramount, and everyone around here knows how to use weapons and takes the safety very seriously. So even in a place like this, Chris, who is one of the great snipers in military history, lost his life in such awful circumstances.
Well, we don't know the exact details of how he died. I have been at the ranch where he died, and I would say that, first of all, it's a little different than where you are. It's a very large place, and quite honestly, they could have been doing any number of things. But Chris Kyle would not have subjected another person to a dangerous situation, so I'm sure that he considered where he was to be relatively safe.
Well, it's an appalling tragedy. The alleged killer is a former Marine called Eddie Ray Routh. He's now in custody, and I guess we'll find out more when he comes to trial. Jim DeFelice, my great sympathies to you on losing your friend, and America's lost a true hero.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And now back to our big gun debate here. Joining me now is Texas State Senator Dan Patrick, who's introduced a bill to allow concealed firearms in university campuses, and Ben Ferguson, a conservative radio host who was the victim of a gun crime himself and says he's glad the NRA is looking out for him. Welcome to you both, gentlemen.
Good to be here.
I wanted to start off by giving you my reaction, I guess, to the guns that I fired earlier, because I've had a lot of people say to me, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what these guns do. Actually, the AR-15 is just another form of gun, nothing. I was pretty shocked, I'll be honest with you, when I got into this range and began to fire the AR-15. And then it began to, you can see the pictures here again. I started off quite slowly, and then it began to really rapid fire. And to hear that, you know, if someone who knows what they're doing could fire between 60, 70, 80 bullets a minute, how anyone could not classify this as an assault weapon is completely beyond me. Explain to me.
It's a personal defense weapon, Piers, and the reason people love that weapon...
Against what?
Against a lot of things. We live in an area, for example, and we've seen the thin veil of civility torn back in a hurricane, the aftermath. We see looters go into a neighborhood in the aftermath, whether it's New Orleans or it was Long Island. We know that in our country, we don't think terrible things like a bomb, a dirty bomb, would be set off in a major city, but it could happen. No one thought 9/11 would happen. And so people have this weapon not only to defend themselves against an individual intruder that would come into their home.
But if you strip out here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you strip out the AR-15 from the equation, and you take all the guns out, the Senator Feinstein, for example, wants to take out, you're still left with wait a minute. You're still left with 2,200 guns you can legally buy.
And the problem is you're obsessing over one gun that a bad human being has used a couple of times. No, hold on, let me finish. Because, hold on a second. Have you ever...
shooters in America...
And guess what? The last mass shooting that I could have been a victim of, it wasn't an AR-15. You're obsessed with an AR-15. The guy who put a gun to my head, have you ever had a gun to your head?
No.
Have you ever had a man look at you in the eyes and say, I'm going to blow your head off?
No.
With expletives while grinning. I had a gun to defend myself. I did not have an AR-15. He didn't have an AR-15.
Why would you have needed an AR-15 in that situation?
You're missing the point of what I'm saying. I'm saying that you can claim anything is an assault weapon when it's in the bad hands of a bad person.
It's not
the gun used that night was not on the special list that the senator wants to have out there, the list of guns. But you know what? That gun that night was just as dangerous to my life.
Sure.
When he pulled the trigger, not once, not twice, not two, not 3 times. And this is my point.
Make your point.
The 10 bullets that you say, why not have a clip of 10? I had a clip that had 13. When the police showed up, you know how many bullets were left in my gun? 1. I would have been too negative that. I would have run out of bullets before I was able to save my life and save my best friend's life. It's a big deal, though.
Okay, listen. I understand the need to defend yourself in a country.
I don't think so.
Wait a minute, let me clarify.
You don't know how many bullets you're going to need to defend yourself or your family.
I understand.
I needed more than 10, Piers.
I understand. Please let me speak. I understand in a country that has over 300 million firearms in circulation, people feel the need to have a firearm to defend themselves.
That's not why
of course
I
they do.
need it, though.
What I don't understand, I want you to explain to me, again, because I may be stupid, I don't know what it is.
No, you're not stupid. You just don't understand the American culture. You don't understand.
I'm trying to understand
that
American
liberty
culture.
and freedom does not guarantee safety. Our founding fathers understood that.
Do you fear tyranny, genuinely?
But, no, I don't feel tyranny, but I do believe that, again...
Do you believe your government is going to overrun Texas using the U.S. military? Because that's what tyranny would mean.
What I said earlier, Piers, was that the reason people like the AR-15, and I have an AR-15. My wife shoots the AR-15. It is a weapon that you can fire multiple times to defend yourself. And what I meant about the Long Island looters aftermath, or New Orleans, we see how quickly people can turn against each other. Heaven forbid, again, we have a dirty bomb in a city and the food supply disappears and the water supply disappears and you have to defend, you have 4 children to defend your family. I want to be able to defend my family, and I have a right under the Constitution.
But nobody felt the need in New York. I was there when Hurricane Sandy happened. Nobody felt the need to take an AR-15 to blow away looters. It wasn't like that on the ground. Huh?
Were they looting?
There was limited looting.
Okay, but don't act as if New Orleans looting was the same thing as what's happening on a beautiful place in New Jersey with totally different clientele of people.
Question for you.
You had socioeconomic conditions that were totally different.
He cited Sandy, not me. Let me put this to you. What is your answer to the parents at Sandy Hook who had their children blown to pieces about how you are personally, through the instrument of your radio show, going to try and make America a safer place than it was?
Simple. First of all, we got to be realistic that there are always, whether it be in America or in the UK or anywhere in the world, crazy people. I want to make sure that there's somebody at every school to be able to protect and defend children, because we know now...
Armed teachers or armed guards?
Either one. And I'll let the people... Hold on, but let me say this. It depends on what the people in that place want, in that city.
Do you believe the NRA agrees with this?
Do I believe that the NRA agrees with... I don't know what the NRA agrees with me or not. I just don't want kids to be safe.
We just had a...
Because here's what the NRA say now. They agree with you now. Here's what Wayne LaPierre said in in fact, just after Columbine. Watch this.
First, we believe in absolutely gun-free, zero-tolerance, totally safe schools. That means no guns in America's schools, period, with the rare exception of law enforcement officers or trained security personnel.
I mean, that's a mirroring thing. Well, wait a minute. That's a mirroring thing. Wayne LaPierre has done a 360 on that. He's done a 360 on background checks. The man is being rapidly exposed as a shameless hypocrite.
Yeah, but
and he's changing his position, in my view,
he's not a hypocrite
to help sell guns in places like this.
He's not a hypocrite if he's learning and changing and adapting the same way you would in a situation in life. That's called using the brain that God gave you. Heck, look at the UK. You guys figured out that having a government with a king was probably a bad idea to rule everything. Am I wrong?
Well, we worked out that...
No, but did you change it? Did you change it? Yes. Welcome to America. We change things often.
What did we change?
You have actually people in your country that decided long ago that they didn't want to have one man over an entire nation. And that's part of the reason why America's here.
Let me get back to this issue.
Am I wrong?
Quite baffling.
Let's get back to the issue of schools.
It makes sense.
Very quickly, if you don't mind.
We just had a hearing in our education committee on this issue, and we've made the decision. It's a local decision, Piers. We have over 1,000 school districts in Texas. Many of the large districts have armed guards already, but the rural districts that won't have police response for 5 to 10 to 15 minutes, they want to arm their teachers, and it's up to the parents.
Let me just say this. I met 2 young female elementary school teachers in their early 20s in a bar in Houston on Friday night. And we were talking to them with our producers, and they were very interesting. Both believed they wanted to have a concealed carry permit because they felt for their own safety. Neither of them wanted to have any assault weapons, wanted a complete ban on assault weapons, and they were absolutely aghast at the prospect of having any guns in their school.
Well, there's always going to be someone who
you have to understand.
But
here's my thing. Here's what I say. You asked me earlier, what would I say to the parents at this school whose kids died? I would say to you, why are you obsessing over a gun when there is a much bigger issue? There's mental, but there's mental health issues.
I've got to leave it
here.
there. But look, I'm obsessing over the very gun that killed their children. That's why.
And what happens when they change the gun? What happens when they change the gun? Are you going to obsess over every gun? I don't think you're going to, because then you'd be a hypocrite.
In the end, it is the gun, because without the gun, the person can't shoot
but you
anybody.
said the gun. It's the person.
I've heard this argument. I think it's a facile one, but I've heard it.
If that gun sits there and no one touches it for the next decade, the gun won't.
Let me ask you. You know why there are no shootings on planes in America?
Because we have.
Because no one allows any guns.
They're
gun-free zones.
No, do you want to make?
They are the ultimate example of a gun-free zone.
They have security to stop
I've got to leave it there. We're going to take a break because we've got Ted Nugent waiting. I can't imagine things will get any calmer. But anyway, a fierce supporter of gun rights, a man I've butted heads with before. He is ready to come at me again. This should be quite lively after the break. Ted Nugent. Coming now, a man who's got very strong opinions about guns. In fact, just about everything. He's not afraid to say exactly what he thinks. He is a rock legend, an avid hunter, an NRA board member. He's Ted Nugent. Ted, welcome back to you.
Welcome to Texas, and I'd like to start off, Piers, by letting everybody know that everybody I know sends prayers to the Chris Kyle and Littlefield families for that tragic loss. And what a celebration. The heroes of the FBI and law enforcement down in Alabama did the right thing, so that's a great relief.
Yeah, and I totally endorse both those sentiments. Let's turn, Ted, because you're a great figure in this area. You know this area better than anybody. I've really enjoyed coming to Texas. I love lovely people.
Let me see that machine gun smile. You got a machine gun smile?
No, but here's the truth about it. It was an exciting experience. There's no question.
And you can't give me a smile? Wasn't that fun?
No, but firing weapons like that, they're incredibly powerful. I have never really done it before. It is an exciting experience. I can't deny that. My issue, I want to play you just again. This is the AR-15, not the automatic version. This is just the regular semi-automatic once I got the hang of it. Watch this clip. Wow. See, here's the thing. This is the weapon that was used at Aurora in the movie theatre, and it was used at Sandy Hook in the elementary school, and it's been used in the last 5 mass shootings. And I can see why. It was very light. It was easy to use. I had very little training before, maybe a minute's worth of training. And I found it very accurate. And even I was getting an accuracy rate which apparently is the same as the trained police officers with real fire in New York of about 20%, which is obviously different circumstances. I'm sure in a range they'd be nearer 90.
We're shocked, by the way.
Right. But look, here's the thing. I don't understand, and I want you to tell me in the least inflammatory way possible, why outside of hog hunting, which I get is a problem in Texas, anybody needs one of those. And if the answer isn't very convincing, why the least we couldn't do to those poor families who lost people to that weapon is not just remove those from the equation?
Well, a number of things. First of all, I've been monitoring your gun debates. Go ahead and take it to the bank. You will never understand. I really don't believe you'll ever grasp.
When I understand?
You don't understand that it's a simple, inanimate tool that tens of millions of American families own that have never caused a problem, never had an accident, and will never commit a crime. You have these aberrations that are such a minute percentage. So my prayers are as strong as any.
Americans a year get hit by gunfire, Ted. It's not a minor aberration.
Let me stop you there, because I've been hearing you say this, and you are so full of crap. Listen to me. That statistic includes bad guys shot by cops and intruders shot by homeowners. So that figure is bogus. So you got to have your research team.
It's an accurate figure. 100,000.
No, it's not. It's not an accurate figure.
100,000 Americans get hit by gunfire a year.
Those include bad guys getting shot by cops.
18,000 of those kill themselves with guns. Right.
Japan has a higher suicide rate, and they're not allowed to get downwind of a gun.
How many people got murdered by guns in Japan in the last 2 or 3 years?
We're not talking about guns. We're talking about the act of murder. Do you care about murders, or do you only care about murders with guns?
I care about all deaths.
I don't think you do. I think you care about guns. I think you're obsessed with guns.
No, I'm obsessed.
99.99% of the gun owners of America are wonderful people that you are hanging around with here today. Yeah. Perfectly safe, perfectly harmless, wonderful, loving, giving, generous, caring people. Would you leave us the hell alone? Go after the nut jobs, go after the murderers, because I don't know any. We need to lock up the bad guys, and when people show dangerous, murderous intent, which every one of these mass murderers showed, all their neighbors, their family, their teachers, their fellow students, they all knew they were crazy, but Piers, we didn't stop them because we're worried about hurting their feelings. We have a madman problem in America where they're running around. We have a felony recidivism problem in America. Let's focus on that together and leave the rest of us alone.
I won't leave you alone because it's a debate that has to be had in America.
And we appreciate that because you're the perfect poster boy to stand up for the things that make no sense at all to common sense people.
Well, this poster boy will take a break, and when we come back after the break, I want to know from you which of President Obama's 35 ideas for curbing gun violence in America you would support.
Tell them there's no legislation to eliminate all guns. There's no legislation being proposed to subvert the Second Amendment. Tell them specifically what we're talking about. Things that the majority of Americans, when they're asked, support. And tell them now is the time for action. That we're not going to wait until the next Newtown or the next Aurora.
President Obama earlier today reinforcing his plans for new gun legislation. So, Ted, a recent CNN Time ORC poll, January 14th and 15th, gun registration now, 69% of Americans supported that. Ban on extended ammo clips, 58%. Ban on semi-automatic guns, 56%. So a clear majority in every case of Americans that you say I don't understand actually agree with me, not you. What is your response to what the president is trying to do? Which of his proposals do you agree with?
Well, I think I can frame it best by identifying the scammer in chief who claims that just to save one life would be worth this.
Isn't it worth it?
He had a chance to save 4 American lives in Benghazi, and he refused to do so. Now he's sending F-16s to Egypt. So how can you believe this guy? This guy is on record. This president of ours has been voted in by that clueless majority who is so out of touch, they still call magazine clips. They still call personal defense weapons assault weapons, which is a nomenclature created by the anti-gun agenda.
Let's just go through a few
I don't agree with President Obama on any of that stuff.
Do you agree with universal background checks?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Because the government doesn't need to know who's got what.
Of course they do.
Ted Kennedy was on the no-fly list 5 times, which I happen to support. But that's a bureaucracy gone mad. You can't trust these guys. I was turned down purchasing firearms a number of times, and I own Class 3 weapons, and I own hundreds and hundreds of guns. I've had a concealed weapons permit for 40 years. I've got sheriff credentials, and the instant check turned me down a number of times. It showed some felony.
But here's what's happened, Ted. You heard the owner of this store earlier in the show say he's selling 4 times as many guns and 4 times as much ammo
to me
since Sandy Hook. Maybe to you, maybe to Alex Jones, who was here earlier, which is fine. I find it an incredibly disturbing reaction to the massacre of 20 young children.
That's not a reaction to Sandy Hook.
But here's my question for you. Here's the question. Do you think America is going to be safer because gun stores like this are selling so furiously and so much faster weapons and ammunition, increasing both in America?
Absolutely. An armed society is a polite society. And again, I told you these statistics before, and they're not mine. They're actually Scotland Yard supported. They're UN supported. They're FBI uniform crime statistics reported. That where there are more citizens with more firepower, particularly on their person loaded concealed weapons permit,
do you know the 2 countries?
There is a dramatic reduction in violent crime.
I saw you say this. So here's the question for you. Do you know the 2 countries which have the highest per capita rate of firearms per civilian?
America and Switzerland, I believe.
No. Do you know what the second one is after America? The Yemen.
Well,
are you seriously telling me the Yemen is one of the safest places on earth?
Are you seriously telling me?
Ted Nugent,
are you?
When you say this kind of bull, and that's what it is, people believe it. And the Yemen is not the safest country in the world.
Are you prepared to admit that your dream of a gun-free zone in Mexico is working, a gun-free zone in Chicago is working, a gun-free zone in all these cities where the slaughter rate is the highest of anywhere?
Let me give you some countries.
Including Yemen.
Let me give you some countries. Australia, Britain, Japan,
They don't have a Second
Canada.
Amendment, Piers.
Huh?
They don't have a Second Amendment,
Your
Piers.
Second Amendment, Ted, doesn't entitle you to have an armoured tank outside or an RPG on your shoulder. You accept gun control already.
Are you sure of that?
Well, I wouldn't want you in a tank. But there are already over 50 gun control measures in this country. We're not talking about bringing in gun control. We're talking about extending it to cover the preferred weapon of mass shooters.
And those gun control measures are violated by all these perpetrators every time. What makes you think that the 51st law is going to stop this kind of slaughter?
Something
and
has
I'm
to be
here
done.
to tell you it will not.
Ted,
I believe an armed society is a polite society.
The mood is changing, Ted, and something has to change. But I respect your opinion. I respect you coming down to talk to me. Thank you.
Back at you.
Ted Nugent, and we'll be back. Tank. But there are already over 50 gun control measures in this country. We're not talking about bringing in gun control. We're talking about extending it to cover the preferred weapon of mass shooters.
And those gun control measures are violated by all these perpetrators every time. What makes you think that the 51st law is going to stop this kind of slaughter?
Something
and
has
I'm
to be
here
done.
to tell you it will not.
Ted,
I believe an armed society is a polite society.
The mood is changing, Ted, and something has to change. But I respect your opinion. I respect you coming down to talk to me. Thank you.
Back at you.
Ted Nugent, and we'll be back.